Alright guys, so today we are going to be ranking every settlement in Tretogor according to the only metric that really matters, the bathroom situation. Now, the way I'm going to do this is we're going to go through every one of the major settlements, and I'm also going to pop into the world occasionally so that you guys can get a little refresher of the places that we're talking about here. Now, the first one that we have up on the list is Sarneville. So why don't we pop over to the world and see how things are looking like in Sarneville. So this is it. This is Sarneville. I'm going to avoid showing what's behind me because I have a bunch of ongoing projects that are probably pretty visible. But coming down here, we can see that there are no bathrooms in this place. There are a couple here at the entrance to this town, but most of the buildings in Sarneville do not have their own bathrooms. The only way that people can go to the washroom is to try and find a public one, which is a little bit of a difficulty, although there is one in this rear alley back here. So it's not impossible, but I think that Sarneville should probably get a B tier. Sarneville getting a respectable B for our first one. Now, second up is going to be the Temple of Fertility. Now, this is just outside of Medina in the Medina Desert. Now, we are here in the Medina Desert. We have the beautiful temple out in front of us. Bexall is that way. Medina, the town itself, is that way. And we have a bunny. But unfortunately, what you'll see if you come in here is that there are no washrooms. And even worse, if we go over to the Tomb of the Kings, there's this graveyard here and this sarcophagus here in this tomb, and yet there is no place for the mummies to go use the washroom. So I think that this place is going to get a pretty pitiful F tier. And unfortunately, I had to remake this tier list a few times, so there's nothing lower than D. So unfortunately, this does get a passing grade, and this is a flaw in the system that we will have to rectify for the next tier list ranking. Before we get there though, we're going to have to rank Treboar Mine. Here we are in the idyllic, if somewhat rough looking Treboar Mine. This is a place for coal workers. The mine's over there, and we are in the place of listening. Now there are about 10 people who live here, and if we come to the back here, we can see that there are 2. Although they're looking a little bit, so maybe points off for hygiene. But I will say that I think that this place should also get a pretty respectable B tier. Now, next up, we have the lovely Summerton Fields, another pretty rural area. And we're going to take care of this one from the air. So as you can see, Summerton is made up of a few different farmsteads all around this central path here. But if we fly around, we will see that there are, unfortunately, no bathrooms, it seems, for any of the farmsteads. I count 2, 3, 4. And of course, we have the central manor here in town, also washroom. And this is going to have to get another D tier, unfortunately. I think what we're going to see with a lot of these older builds is that they're almost all going to fall into this lower slot, except for Newport, because I know that I thought about the bathroom situation in Newport a little bit when I planned it out. But before we get there though, we have Tillid, also around the Castle Leslie lands, although this place is independent. So here we are in the independent town of Tillid. If I come around through the back, you see that behind this house there is in fact a little washroom. Oops. We can scooch around over here, and you can see that there is also a little bathroom here. Nope. There is one down here, although it looks like people have been dumping some pretty nasty stuff. And I don't think that there are any other washrooms in this place. So maybe one back here. Oh, it's just I think Tillid is kind of a disappointing place in terms of our washroom count. And it's going to go into a pretty classy C tier. There we go, starting to fill out the bottom tiers of this, but I know that we can hit those A tiers and S tiers if we really try. Next up though, we have the Rosewood Port, and I think this one's also going to be a D tier, but before I make that assumption, let's go check on that town. So here we are at the ruins of the Rosewood Port. Now, I'm not counting uninhabited places in this ranking like the portal over there, but I think Rosewood Port was built to be a real settlement, so we should treat it like one. Now, in this settlement here, we can see that there are some houses laid around this kind of central area here with the well. Most of these places were abandoned pretty slowly, so whatever they built should still theoretically be here. But I think as we come through the town, we're going to see that there are no washrooms. Pretty disappointing for the Rosewood Porters, Rosewood Port colonists. This video is going to be a little bit less edited than my other videos, because it is an April Fool's video, of course. And there are some situation either. So, pretty unfortunate D tier for the Rosewood Port. That's another D tier. Now, this next one is one that I'm really excited about, and it's the one that made me want to make this video all the way back in May of last year, and that is Regensburg. Here we are at the glorious city of Regensburg, the biggest city in Tretogor province, the most beautiful, the most recent city, although there have been more recent projects, but they're mostly towns and castles, of course. There are a lot of bathrooms in Regensburg, but not only that, there are some really nice bathrooms. So I will actually show you, just outside of town here, we have the Van Graff Estate. And if we come up through this somewhat spooky house, we can get to the bathtub here, flushable toilet. One of only 3, I believe, in all of the world. And the other ones are also. I think Regensburg is there is no place in the world like Regensburg, and if I had to use the bathroom when I was visiting Tretogor, there's no place that I would rather do it than this glorious town. Love slotting that into S tier. Now, I'm concerned about A tier. I don't know if we're going to hit A tier, but I think I have one idea of what place I want to put there. Before we get there, though, I want to talk about Newport. Now, Newport is the first city of Tretogor. So here we are outside Newport, and Newport is kind of an interesting place because there are a couple of bathrooms, mostly on newer buildings that I came in and added after it was built, but those count. But I think from a sanitation perspective, Newport is still doing better off than most of the other places on this list, and I think it can still slide into a classy B tier. So there we go, Newport in B, and just across the water from Newport, we have New Gedym. This place, I don't know what ranking it's going to get. So after skipping over the water, Newport is just over there, we get to New Gedym, and we have to investigate the bathroom situation in New Gedym, because I do not remember how many I put in this place, if any at all. I will say that New Gedym was mostly inspired by RPGs like Octopath Traveler and the old Pokemon games, so there is a good to fair chance that I entirely forgot to put bathrooms in this place. And I'll get back to you on whether or not that's true. I found one. I think that there is one singular washroom in this place. There may be 2. I will see if there is a second one. There is not. So the entirety of New Gedym, which has a population of about 30 people, has only one washroom, and it is an outdoor outhouse. I think that's going to be another unfortunate C tier, because they do technically have a system, but it's a pretty horrible one, and if I had to go use the washroom in Tretogor, I would not want to be sent to New Gedym. The new Gedym is getting into C tier along with Tillid. They have toilets, but they do not have enough, and I don't want to be there. Up next, though, we have Evergreen, which is a small castle on Lake Avon. Here we are, and Evergreen is actually a place that I came up and recently added a couple of additions to recently, including terraforming this place and adding a little boat dock so that they could go trade with Regensburg. But the one thing that I didn't is we will have to see if there are any built into this place. Coming inside here, I don't see any, but that doesn't mean that we will have to investigate further. After investigating further, there are none. So this is going to get another dreaded D tier. I don't know what they're doing with their waste. I assume they're just chucking it into the swamps, and I frankly don't want to know, and I don't want to be here when they do it. So here we go, another dreaded D tier. I think we can definitely see a trend here where the newer builds definitely have more bathrooms than the older ones. But the next one that we have coming up is another older build, and I fear that this one also has no bathrooms or maybe one or two, which is pretty unfortunate because Medina has the second largest population in all of Tretogor. So here we are in the desert town of Medina. I say town, whether it's a town or a city is kind of up to you. But what isn't up to you is how many bathrooms I put in this place. So that is what we are here to investigate. I realize this is kind of a census video, which is something some people have asked me to make, but I don't think they ever imagined that I would be doing a census for each of my builds. That being said, let's investigate. In this courtyard area, we have no toilets. If we walk down this main street, I don't think we'll see anything. But we can check and see these backyards. Again, no toilets. If we come down into the main here, by the statue and the aqueduct, we can see that there are again no toilets. There's even a bathhouse, which has no toilets. I think this is pretty big. But I did recently make one addition to Medina, and we can skip just across the little river here, the dye works, to see if there are any bathrooms, and I forgot to put some in. So Medina is going to get another disgusting D tier because there are over 100 people who live in this town, and not one of them has figured out something to do with their waste better than chucking it into the river. It's at times like these that I really wish that this tier list had an F tier, because I would love to give it to Medina. But a place that is not going to get an F tier is Castle Leslie, because I know that there are at least 4 bathrooms in this place. Maybe more. Here we are at Castle Leslie, one of the 2 nicest castles in the world, in my opinion, and a lot of people's favorite, and I think that's fair. I think Castle Leslie is a really lovely place. But the better question is, how many bathrooms do they have for a population of about 60 to 70 people? Now, in the front here, we can see that there are 3 bathrooms in this lower courtyard area. If we come inside, we have some habitation. Some people do live here. So do they have any bathrooms? I think the answer is unfortunately no. There are no bathrooms in this whole area except for this one, which is starting to overflow, I think. So, not a great system. Heading into the interior of the castle. I still love this place. This is a beautiful place. I will maintain my journalistic integrity, but I do have a soft spot for Castle Leslie. Coming up, though, I think we will find that there are not quite enough toilets in this place. There is one sticking out of the back here, which I do recall. It is a 2-tiered toilet, so you can go on either level. And if we come around the back here, I think there is a toilet here and here. And there's also one on the walls over there. And one over there. So are there enough bathrooms for about 60 to 70 people? There's also in here, hold on, I'm going to break some glass really quickly. There is a washroom, but there is no toilet in here. Not good. And if we come down here, this is also a bathroom. But this one does have a toilet. So, what can we make of this? I think that this place should get an A tier. It's not perfect. I would much rather go to Regensburg, but I would much rather be here than in Newport or Sarneville, because this place has enough bathrooms. Some of them are even on the interior, and some of them look pretty nice. So here we go, placing our first A tier. Feels pretty good, especially you can see that the A's and S's are for builds that I have a real soft spot for. But I do love all of my builds in this world, some more than others. The others being some of the smaller builds especially, which I put less work into, like the Cutthroat Cove. So here we are at the Cutthroat Cove. This is when I was in my Pirates of the Caribbean era. And if we come into this little place, we can see where the pirates hang out. So in this lovely dripstone cave here, and by the way, I have my brightness turned all the way up. That's why nothing is quite as dark as it kind of should be. We can see that there are a couple of places for pirates to sleep, but pretty drippy and echoey though. I think that this place is going to have to get another D tier. Now here's where I wish I had the distinction between a D and an F, because I would give this place a real genuine D tier. Because even though it also has no bathrooms, there are far fewer people who need to use the bathroom in Cutthroat Cove than there are in Medina. So I think it would be far less disgusting. Next up though, we have Marsh Castle. So why don't we take the census over to the first place I ever built in this world. Here we are in Marsh Castle, and I want to actually take the moment right now to say that there is a secret in this world that is kind of close to here. It's in this general kind of region, and it's been in the world for about maybe 3 years, 2 years. No one has ever found it, and I know that because it says, if you find this, please leave a comment on my Planet Minecraft. None of you have, and you all have access to the world download. So if one of you actually finds what it is, I would love to see it, but I will never reveal where it is because you have to earn it. That being said, getting into Marsh Castle here, I know for a fact that we have at least a couple of bathrooms. At least I swear I remember putting some in. Marsh Castle is a pretty old build though, like I said. So are bathrooms? I'm not entirely sure. That possibly behind this house here, there may be a washroom. There, right there. Let's see. There is nothing. Oh, that's in the castle, I don't think there is any kind of bathroom situation going on. And they don't even have a great water source nearby. They just have this kind of sluggy river. And nobody wants to go down to the sluggy river. It's kind of gross. So I think this is going to get another disgusting D tier. There we go, D tier filling up, unfortunately. And the next one is Greenfield. Now Greenfield is chronologically the newest build in the world because it hasn't even been built yet. So here we are. When I first built this place, there was a plains biome, and I had a lot of space to fill between Castle Stonehart all the way over there and Summerton here. So I decided to just put down some chopped down trees and call it a day. And I later came back in and built this little place. Now it's a real kind of crossroads because that way goes to Regensburg, that way goes to Stonehart and Brewerstown and everything that's that way. You can go to the Bloodstone Church, you can go to Tillid and Castle Leslie, and Summerton, and it's a real kind of cosmopolitan area. The question is, how many? Now, I think that only about 8 people live here, and they have 1 bathroom. That's good. But I think this is probably another B tier. You're camping out in the woods. The fact that you even have a nice place to go to the washroom is not that bad. Can't complain. B tier. So there we go. Another lovely B tier. And next up we have Dun Lyon. Another pretty small build, also relatively nearby. Like with Ross Tillid, Dun Lyon is basically in the Castle Leslie area, but it is technically independent. So if we come into this area, we'll see that there are some small, kind of pitiful farms, a couple of houses, and a public bakery area. There is a place to go down to the river here, but I don't see any bathrooms here, although there is a poop pile. So I think that's just for animal manure, though. I don't think that counts. I do know, though, that up here in the little castle, there's a sheep climbing, we do have a little garderobe. So the guy who owns this place can use the washroom, although no one else really can. I think that's kind of sad and gross, but it's not the worst thing we've seen in this world. So it's going in C tier. There we go. Really filling out the bottom kind of tiers here, especially B and D. I think the next one is also probably going to get a B tier, I guess. The next one is Douglas Ranch, and this one I built when I was really into my Red Dead Redemption 2 era, which lasted a lot longer than my Pirates of the Caribbean era, and I am still arguably in. If any of you join the Discord, hit me up about Red Dead Redemption 2. I have thoughts. So here we are. Dun Lyon was in pretty much the northernmost part of the world, and this place is pretty far south. It's in the Tall Trees region, which used to be really isolated, but then I built a huge wall in the background, so it's a bit less isolated, I will say. And I also put in some paths. But the real important thing is, does it suck to use the bathroom at the Douglas Ranch? The answer is no, not really. If you come around here, see that there is a little toilet here. It's a bit hard to squeeze up into, but if you get in there, it's not bad. Got a pretty nice little building around it, nice little outhouse. And if we skip around to this area, you see that there are a couple of cabins here, and they have their own outhouse. We also have some horses, and their manure is nicely tidied up, so we don't have to worry about that. This place is pretty nice, and you know what? For a ranch, I really don't mind the outhouse vibe, especially they're pretty big and nice outhouses. They even have tiled roofs. So I think that this place is going to get an A tier. Now, while A tier might seem a little bit high, again, you have to take into mind the context. If you're living on a ranch, you have different expectations for what your day is going to look like than if you live in a big metropolitan city. The Regensburgers are used to having their bathrooms in the town. The New Gedymites really should be used to having bathrooms in their town, and they don't for some reason. But at Douglas Ranch, you kind of get what you get, and I think that that's respectable enough to get an A tier. Next up on the list, though, we have Dewberry, which is not inspired by Red Dead Redemption 2, even though it sounds like it is. It's inspired by The Witcher 3. This is Dewberry, and much like Greenfield over there, which used to just be a way to get to Stonehart, Dewberry was also just that. It was just a way to get to Stonehart. I needed something to put here on the way, and I wanted to put a little tavern. Now, the real question is, if you stop at this tavern, can you use the washroom anywhere? And I don't know the answer to that. But this is inspired by White Orchard from The Witcher 3. Now, let's get around back here and see. If you come around back, you'll see that there is some laundry and some farming, but no bathroom. Although there is a way to get down to the river there. If we come around to the other houses, we will also see a conspicuous lack of bathrooms, and this is egregious. I will have to give this one a D tier for disgusting. I think it's really unfortunate that some of these places are getting D tiers, but you also have to remember that the average Minecrafter does not add any bathrooms to any of their builds. So I somewhat feel vindicated in not giving myself an F tier for any of these, because frankly, I think the fact that there is a bathroom in every building in Regensburg is going above and beyond the Call of Duty. That being said, this is still going down into D tier. And the next one is the copper mines, and this one is also going to get a D tier, but we have a format going, and we will have to go there for the census. So here we are at the copper mines, and a lot of people ask me, Sir Robert Ross, why is your world so full of stuff? Why isn't everything really spread out so that you can really feel the space between builds? And the answer is, it's really hard to navigate, especially for people who haven't been in the world before, and it's really boring to have to fly around for like 20 minutes to find a build. What I like is that you can see Bexall, the Temple of Fertility, Medina, Marsh Castle, Newport, and kind of New Gedym over there if you just turn your render distance up for like a second, all from this lovely little area here. That being said, what can you not see? It's about Copper Mines is pretty old built again, in the Newport area. There is no washroom in this place, although I will say that the place is obviously still in the early stages of development. They haven't been doing this copper mining stuff forever, so I will give them some slack. Maybe it wasn't their first priority, but it's still going in detail because Treboar Mine can get their act together and get 2 bathrooms in. I think that the copper mines can do that too. So we have another D tier, and unfortunately D tier is now comprising 2 whole layers. A little bit disappointing, but I think we can still get some more A tiers. No more S tiers though, I will be honest. I don't think we're getting any more S tiers in this ranking, but I think we can still hit A. Probably twice. That being said, next up here is Clarendon, and I do not know if Clarendon is going to hit A tier. So let's take it back to the census. Here we are in Clarendon. This is another build that I've added a lot onto since I first kind of finished it. I've added like 5 houses around here just to kind of blend it in with Regensburg a bit. But have I added any toilets? Now, coming into town, I think the first thing you'll see on your left hand is a toilet. First thing you see on your right hand is a big pile of poop from the horses and sheep. That being said, are there second? I think if we come around, we can find probably a 3rd toilet around here. Hopefully. Can we find a 3rd toilet? No. So we can find this. So, what does this mean for Clarendon? Well, we clearly have some toilets, but not enough. And I think that lands us back into solid B tier territory. And this is a reminder to everyone in the chat. If you disagree with any of my rankings, let me know in the comments, tell me why, and tell me where you would rank these builds on the objective tier list of the best builds in Tretogor province. That being said, we're back in B tier. Castle Stonehart is definitely not going to get a B tier because I was not thinking enough about bathrooms when I did that, and I'm pretty sure, but not totally sure, that it's going to be back in D. I don't think it has a single bathroom in that whole place. So here we are at Castle Stonehart, and I don't want to turn around because there is a new unfinished thing behind me. I know I've said that already once. It is true a second time. There's something unfinished behind me, to my right, to my left, and also to my left. There's another unfinished thing. I've been doing a lot of project hopping, guys. That being said, are there bathrooms in this place? I think the answer is basically no. I think if we come around here, we can see no outhouses. I know that there are no sewers. We can come around here, perfect place for a bathroom, but yet there is none. Clearly, it just wasn't what I was thinking about. Trying really hard to avoid showing that in the background. We have this lovely hall here, no bathroom. And we have this whole castle here. And if we look on the outside, we will see that there is no bathroom. On the inside, I'm pretty sure that there's no bathroom, but whoops, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. There we go. We do have baths. We have baths, but we don't. This is a room to get ready in the morning, and over here, this is another room to get ready in the morning. No bathroom. Unfortunately, this is another D tier, even though I love this character. So there we go, filling up D tier even more. Next up, we have Blackhull. Blackhull is a very small castle out in the Neverwell Forest, just a little old brick place. And the fun fact about Blackhull is that I used the same castle as inspiration for this as I did for Marsh Castle, which is the Clegane Keep on the Westeros Craft server. So here we are in Blackhull. The only thing I really added recently to this place was a little carrot patch out front, because I realized these people have no food, and I'm sure they have some free time, so they're farming some carrots. Another reminder, you guys have heard me say it a few times now, but I am dying for an agriculture update to Minecraft, and my next video on this channel, or the one after, is probably going to be an agriculture video. So stay tuned, all my agriculture heads in the chat. That being said, we have this outdoor area, no bathroom, but up here we do have a toilet. And it conveniently can lead us to this big poop pit, which is right next to the horses as well. Not bad. I will say not bad. Blackhull only has a population of like 3 people who live here. It is not very much, so I don't feel bad about them only having one toilet. I think that's fair. And I think I'm going to put this in A tier, because it's not bad. There would be almost no lineup for the bathroom. And for the guy who has to shovel the poop from the drop to the pit, that's like almost no work. You know, it's really not that bad. If I lived in Blackhull, it wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't love it, but I think that's a respectable, agreeable A-tier situation for this little castle out in the woods. If you hear me getting slowly quieter throughout this video, it is because I am losing my voice and I forgot to fill my water bottle before I started recording. That being said, Blackhull is going to sneak into A tier. I don't think it's quite as good as the other A tiers, but it's not that bad. And frankly, the fact that you don't have to wait to use the washroom is really nice, especially compared to a place like Castle Leslie, which has more washrooms, but you would definitely have to wait longer to use one of those. That being said, the next place we have coming up is Bexall. Here we are. Bexall is the second desert town I made in this world after Medina, and by after I mean like 5 years after. People have asked me to do another desert town like really soon, and the answer is no, because there's only so much cool stuff you can do in the desert before it just starts to get repetitive. And frankly, I feel like I did all the cool stuff in this build, and I'm going to need a couple years to think of more cool stuff that I can put into the desert. But one thing that I did do in this build that I didn't do in Medina is add toilets, and I know that there's one right over there. So, right when you get into town, there's a toilet. Not bad, not bad. I really like this place. I think it's colorful. This is a little like a dye merchant, and I think that's really nice. And they have camels, which are a cool mob. If we walk around the top, you might notice that none of the houses, interiors, lag spike, none of the houses on the interiors, none of the houses on the interiors have any toilets. So, you know, not like the greatest. But on the outside, there's a toilet here. This one is also empty. So clearly, people are going to continue things. Not like the overflowing toilets in other places. There are none here, and I don't think that there are any over here either. So it looks like there are 2 and 3 toilets for about 30 people who live in Bexall, which is not ideal. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. Like, you could live with that. I think realistically, not enough bathrooms puts us into B tier. It's not the worst. It's not as bad as C tier, but it's not as good as A. I think if this place had more bathrooms, it would be comfortably in A tier. I'm starting to doubt the process, actually. I was going to put this in B tier, which I think is still kind of fair. But I feel like if this is going into B tier, Ross Tillid should also be in B tier, because B tier is kind of like places where there are bathrooms, they just kind of suck to use. Versus A tier is like fine to use, S tier would be pleasant, and D is just no bathrooms. I think it would just not be that good to use the bathrooms here because there just aren't enough of them, mostly. And coming to another place where I think that there are literally no bathrooms, Anchorage. Let's take it back to the census. Here we are in Anchorage. You can see Castle Blackhull just there. We have the Rosewood Port, Newport, and Gedym over there. So it's a pretty well situated place. This is a very old build in the world, just after Newport, basically. And I did come in here kind of recently, and I built an extra little house here with a little carrot farm. Again, Minecraft, I need to stop planting carrots in every build, but there's no good alternative to planting carrots in every build, other than beets. I refuse to plant potatoes because those are a new world crop, and Tretogor may be fantasy, but it's medieval fantasy, and we do not accept potatoes. That being said, we could really use some bathrooms. There are, I believe, just go off the edge there, but that's not a great situation. I think it's one any of us want to be in. I think even the ruler of this place, the one who lives in this tower, does not have their own bathroom. Because if they did, it would be sticking out of the wall, I think, somewhere. Looking at the bedroom here, and yeah, confirm that there is just no bathroom here. There are also a lot of cobwebs, and this place is definitely getting a D tier. Not nice. You don't want to have to use the bathroom when you're in Anchorage. I highly suggest you keep going and find the one and you get him, or just go all the way to Bexall if you have the time. So there we go. This is getting another D tier. Again, somewhat disappointing about the amount of D tiers here, but I know that the next one not going to get a D tier, and that is Brewerstown. The final build. I considered not including Brewerstown in this video because it isn't technically done, but I have built almost every bathroom that's going to be in that place. So I have a pretty good idea of how many there are going to be. So here we are in the lovely town of Brewerstown. You can see that it is still not quite done. We still have some buildings left to do. And also birds. We have birds in Brewerstown. I'm considering it. I may remove those, but I kind of like the birds. That being said, there are quite a few bathrooms around this place. We can see that there are not quite enough for like every single building, but there is... Hold on. There may be fewer than I thought, to be honest. Not every place has a bathroom. There is one there. I know that there are a couple around here. There is a bathroom over here and one over here. There are a couple of bathrooms there and a few around this farming area, but not quite enough for everybody. So that may kind of knock us down. That being said, if we get into the town itself, there are some bathrooms around. There's one for the brewing area. There are some bathrooms back here, but again, not quite enough, unfortunately. Not every place is super obvious where they would have to use the bathroom if they, had to go. And if we come around to some houses on the back side, whoops, another lag spike, not ideal. You see that there are some bathrooms that stick out of the buildings occasionally, like here and here. But again, it's not a great system. It doesn't account for everybody. The castle itself does have a good bathroom system. So this tower here, without showing too much of what's behind me, this entire tower is just for bathroom stuff. So it's not a terrible system. But I think Brewerstown has to get, realistically, a B tier. I wanted to give it an A. But I think if I'm being realistic and I'm comparing it to the other builds, there aren't really enough bathrooms, and it would kind of suck to have to go here because you'd have to wait in line for a while. For that reason, Brewerstown is also getting a B. So there you have it, guys. This is it. This is the objective, 100% unfalsifiable, only real ranking of every settlement in Tretogor, based on the number of how many bathrooms they have, aka how much it would suck to have to use the washroom there. We see that we have a couple of A's, we have one S tier, and a lot of D tiers. The question is, should I go back to these builds and add a couple of bathrooms here and there? I feel like I probably should, especially some of these builds like we saw with Castle Leslie, or Castle Stonehart rather. We definitely have space to go in and add a bathroom here and there. I think it wouldn't be that hard, and we have a pretty simple design that we can pop in almost anywhere. I think that we should go in and add some more, and maybe I will remake this video a year from now, and it'll be all S tiers across the board. Every single place will have a golden throne to sit on when you have to use the bathroom. But until then, guys, happy April Fool's Day, and I'll see you guys soon. So yeah, see ya.